What's good, everybody? Thank you for joining me for another segment of Sentimentally Speaking. I have a beautiful young lady with me
Mhm.
whom I met at my alma mater, the College of St. Rose. I am going to let her introduce herself because she is amazing, fabulous, spectacular, and phenomenal in every way. We never have a dull conversation when we run into each other in public, Walmart, outside, anywhere. Go ahead, beautiful. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. I want to first of all thank you so much for inviting me on your platform. The beautiful, gorgeous chocolate, always smiling. I love dimples. Oh, so I need to give you your flowers as well. My name is Nakia Tillman, and I also went to St. Rose. I was an education major. I'm a mom. I'm a daughter. Everything fabulous, and also a children's book author. I've published two books. One called The uh, Adventures of Margie, and then my second one, that one was focused on the young women. The second book, The Adventures of the Amazing Q, was focused on little boy, black boy superheroes. And you could find those on Amazon.com for I think $12.95. I think the price is. And I'm also working on the sequel to that book, so that one should be coming out next year.
Congratulations. I know
Thank
writing
you.
books aren't easy and you did it twice. Super dope and still doing it.
Yeah,
Congrats. I'm so proud of you.
thank
That's
you.
awesome. So, girl, when I saw you and you told me what you did and you also got this initiative that you have going on. And the fact that you mentioned that you're a mom, you're an education major. I was like, I want to talk to somebody who can help me sift through this whole parenting thing, right? Not as a single parent, not as a co-parent, but just parents, period, and what that
Mhm.
perspective might look like as we raise our children. I'm a mom of three. I have a 15-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 27-year-old. So I
Woo.
got a child who's grown, a child who's an adult, not
Mhm.
semi-grown though, and still a dependent. And what I want to first dive into is what are our parental duties, specifically when our children are over the age of 18. What does
Mhm.
that look like for us as parents? I know we're speaking from a mom's perspective, and I want the audience to keep that in mind, right? Because we do know that moms tend to come from a more emotional standpoint. We
Mhm.
tend to be a little more nurturing. Not saying that dads aren't, but that's just
Yeah.
our traits as moms, right?
Mhm.
So when we think about our young adults, what is our obligation to them? Are we still expected to have dinner made for them when they come home? Are we expected to do their laundry? Are we expected to buy their deodorant and their body wash? Are we expected to pay the cell phone bills? Like, what do we do
So
as
that's oh,
parents?
that's a loaded question, but and I'll start here. So our legal duty, because this is the work that I do. I work for Trinity Alliance as a service navigator and as a parent advocate. Our legal obligation to our children until they reach the age of 18: housing, clothing, food, making sure they get an education, and making sure their educational needs are met. That is
Until
what our duty
18.
is until they're 18. Right,
Okay.
and now if they decide to go to college, that extends until they graduate, because if they are in school, we still have a duty to support them, to get them to
Hmm.
that benchmark. If they are not, depending on how we set it up, for them, if we've been setting them up for success, saying, because some of us parents will say, oh, when you get 18 you got to get out of here, but we don't take the necessary steps to make sure that when they do reach 18 they understand how to survive, how to be out on their own. And when we let them loose like that, it's dangerous for them. And what we're creating in our children when we do that is anxiety, uncertainty, fear, and basically a recipe for disaster.
Setting them up for instability, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because, right, we know how expensive it is in today's society. Like to expect a child, because our
Mhm.
child, even though they're an adult in the eyes
Yeah,
of
that's
law,
so
but
true.
expect them to be able to make three times the amount of rent that these landlords and property owners are
Right.
expecting is absurd. They're just now, they'll be lucky if they finish school, if they find a job,
Mhm.
making double that. But what I feel like is too is if we put our children out, where are we expecting them to go? Are
Exactly.
We're throwing them to the wolves, so to speak.
Exactly.
Why? I'm not even gonna ask you why you think people do that, but what could be some of the benefits of keeping our children home longer besides the financial ones that we kind of touched on, and the emotional impact it can have on them by putting them out way too soon?
So one thing that as parents we got to realize is that the relationship with our children changes. We can't parent an 18-year-old like we would a 15-year-old or a 2-year-old. That relationship should have been evolving over time, so that way when they are 18, because our position now is about guidance. It's about what we can tell you, hey, you're 18, in about 6 months, you should be here. This is how I need you to start making plans to be here. But if we haven't given them that early, they don't know. And what we fear is that they'll go and get it from somebody else. Now, what if somebody else is not to their benefit? We know our children, but if we do that and we put them out, we cannot then be mad at our children for going a certain way that we don't want them to go by throwing them out, but we didn't set them up to be able to make good decisions because, let's be honest, a lot of times in our community, we haven't made good decisions. We were so bent on making sure our kids, weren't getting killed, making sure they weren't going to jail, making sure they weren't doing all the negative things that we forgot to pour positive things into them, and then not with our lives going on. So we didn't really show them, say, listen, when you're 14, you start work. Let's get you a bank account. Because if we're of that mindset, when you're 18, you got to get out of my house, then we need to be able to set them up to be able to do that, to make financial decisions, to, be able to look, hey, if you're looking for an apartment, I'm going to go with you to show you how it's done. Like that's what it looks like, whether mom, dad, family, whoever, but so that even the outside world will understand that no matter what, even though the child is leaving the nest, they're still protected.
Love that. They still cover. But and also I love that you said too, the point you made about we're so busy trying to keep them away from the negative that we might be overlooking some of those essential tips
Mhm.
and guidance that we should be giving them. I mean, even budgeting, right?
Yeah.
Because when kids live at home and they getting their little summer job check or they getting their little
Yeah.
part-time job check, that little essentials fair of God hoodie look for
Yeah.
$80. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Those Yeezys they want to cop for 120. That's cool.
Right.
But it's like when you go on the world, baby, those sweats and hoodies ain't gonna keep you warm in the wintertime when your utilities is shut off because you didn't
Right.
budget
Right.
accurately.
Exactly.
So how do we go from though for those of us who are able to balance keeping you out of the negative and instilling the positive, productive, stable minded, um, I guess things, routes that they should go to keep them grounded. How do we go from guiding them to saying, you know what? I I told you all I can tell you, a hard head make a soft behind.
Yeah.
It's like when do we realize that our children's decisions is no longer our fault?
So honestly, and I'm just gonna be honest, we
Please.
know who and what we raised, and we know and what we did not do. So
Mm.
you see what I'm saying? So if we
For
understand,
those of us that take
oh,
accountability here,
yes,
because
no, that takes
okay.
accountability. So so when I do parenting courses, my accountability piece for the parents is what environment did you have your children around?
Mm.
And I'm not talking about externally, I'm talking about internally, because we know a lot of mess could be anywhere, whether it's a safe neighborhood or a dangerous neighborhood. But what are they getting in the house? Is it
Mhm.
calm? Is it chaotic? Um, have we been doing the necessary things, right? Because we know that children absorb and mimic what we do for the most part. And if we have a chaotic child, early on, we recognize that, because and it could be a learning disability. It could be something going on with that child that is just fostering, fostering, fostering. We can't get a handle on it because we haven't taken the child to get help, taken the child to the doctors, right? We haven't done what we needed to do. So by the time they're 18 and they're adult, it's out of control. And we're like, look, I did all I could do, but you got to get out of here because now they might be becoming a danger. There's that. And there's
Mm.
also sometimes kids are who they are. sometimes people are who they are. You ever been in a situation where you knew somebody early on and you were like, wow, you came from a great family and they still ended up in a bad place because you saw what they were doing and nobody couldn't tell them anything, right? It's that, and they might have a come to Jesus moment, hopefully before it gets bad, but sometimes they don't, because sometimes people are who they are. And as parents, we don't like to think that something like that could come from us, that we did, you know, we raised you right, we made sure you were fed, we make sure you had everything you needed, but you still are choosing to not be a good person in society. So I cannot let you affect what's going on in my household anywhere, especially if you still have younger ones coming up and seeing this, because kids are they're gonna put that right back on the parent. But well, you let such and such do this, but if I can't do this, so you got to make sure that there are clear boundaries. And if you understand, if you're honest with yourself about a person and there's no mental health issues going on with your child, say at 18, listen, baby, you're grown. The world is not kind. I'm going to help you as much as I can, but you can't be here. I'm going to help you, you know, get to A, B, and C. I'll set you up. But after that, you are on your own. And you're either going to sink or swim. And that's the reality, because too much chaos we allow a lot of chaos out of guilt. But when they're 18 and they're grown, you know, it's really out of our hands. Oh, I'm sorry. And either we did our best or we didn't. But at that point, the child has to learn now how to take accountability for their behavior, because the world is not going to care that you had a crappy home life. All they're going to do is see what you're doing. And not for nothing, as an adult, as a parent, we can't save our 18-year-old children, because if you do something out there and the cops get you, they're not going to say, well, call your parents. They're going to be like, well, you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, and you can call us, but they're going to be like, well, call a lawyer, because your parents can't help you. So it's some reality checks that as parents, we got to understand what we're setting our kids up for. And if you know who your child is, sometimes you got to be like, I love you and I will pray for you, but that's all I can do, because, you know, I can't let you put me in the early grave, because my grandmother used to say, worryation will kill you quicker than anything, you know, than a heart attack, than, you know, your health. When you worry about your kids, you know, that wears on a parent.
You said a mouthful there, and I like literally wish I could go and play back for the people, but they can rewind it on their own time. And I believe the distinction then, right, to answer that question and sum it up perfectly based on your response, is that if your child is following your rules, doing what they're supposed to do, trying, going to school, you know, being a positive role model, if there's younger children in the house, then why not allow them to stay and continue to get that guidance and cultivate you know, their morals and values, so that when they do leave your doorstep, they are a more well-rounded human being, versus somebody who just can't follow the rules, out there doing Lord knows what, bringing drama or toxicity or, you know, unhealthy dynamics to the household, you know, not contributing in a positive way. Then you might have to be like, you know what, I got to let you go. I've tried to do what I can do. So perhaps that's the distinction then. But when we have because, oh, and also you said that the law ain't gonna care about your parents when you're 18, and the difference between high school and college. My high schooler teachers still email me and call me the kid chatterbox. College, I ain't know my kid was flunking. Until I was like, I need to see those grades. You need me to sign what? Let me see the grades. You know, that is it. They hold no mercy from 18 up. So we don't do anything by coddling, but moms, and I'm going to talk as Black moms because that's where we are. You made a point. You said we raise our daughters and we love our sons. Come on, talk about that here.
So we raise our daughters and we love on our sons. And what I mean by that is that comes from historical trauma of slavery. That's where that comes out of, because when they started to threaten our men and rape our men and do things in front of us to our men, that did something to us mentally. And that all you know, that got passed down generationally through our DNA. We come up out of our mothers, we carry that trauma through the womb to womb. That is in us. That's why we're always in a fight or flight defense, believe it or not. So when it comes to our boys, who is our protector? The men, right? But we understood that, especially once slavery ended, they were liable to be lynched, killed, or whatever. And so we tended to hold on to our boys a little bit harder, a little bit longer than our girls, because we also understood that the women are going to be survivors. The women know how to survive because by nature, that's what we do. Even childbirth during slavery, when we were out in the fields, if we went into labor, we just had to have that baby in the field, push the baby to the side, and get back to work because that's just what we did. The men, though, were snatched of their rightful place. And we saw that and we recognized that. So seeing our boys leave us, it does something to us emotionally more so than our girls. Because we're raising them differently, not just because of gender, but because of the nature of survival. Like when we look at our boys, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? Like we see what can happen. We see what happens to you. We see what it has been done to you. So for you to leave us, even if it's our sons, it just tears at us a little bit differently than it does with our girls. Because our girls come home. You know, our daughters, you know, we raise them to be warriors, to be survivors, because we understand as women, because we're women, we know what that looks like. But I think we do a disservice to our boys because we don't know what it's like for a boy. We assume we do because of what we see, but we don't know what they're feeling internally. Like I have two boys. I can't talk to them about a period. I don't know what that looks like. I can't talk to them about their sack starting to drop. A man has to do that. So the men understand that. That's why they were like, no, he got to get out. He got to go figure it out. While the mom's just like, well, can't we just give him a little bit? You know, but what if something happens? And the men are like, okay, then we'll deal with that when it happens. So we're all about
Mm.
the prevention. And they're like, no, trust that he knows what he's doing.
And
You know
they're
what I
about the
mean?
primitive,
Yeah.
which hints to why a balanced household, a male and a female dual gender household is important
It's,
to raising, wholesome, solid, protective young
yeah.
men.
Yeah. And it also teaches
Okay.
our daughters that when the man is there, like, look, sh- you're not gonna play in my daughter's face. Like I know there's a lot of, the podcasts about there about women and who they are and strong, but typically when you have a woman that's been raised by her father, you're gonna move differently with her. Cause her dad has already told her about game, about certain things where you can't come with her with no nonsense. Cause she could be like, oh, I got a father. So I already know what this is.
Mm.
You
And
know what I
more than
mean?
likely has already instilled a lot of that in her that what you trying to impress her with, she
Yeah.
done got. Like
Right.
daddy done
Yeah.
provided that.
Right.
Daddy spoiled me. Daddy opened my door. Daddy treated me like a
Yeah.
princess.
Yeah.
I wanted for nothing with daddy, hopefully, because not every girl who came up with a dad in the house got that
Mhm.
either. So
That's true.
I don't want it to seem like we're ignoring that,
Yeah,
that
yeah, and
fact
and
that
and
some
vice
little
versa. Sometimes, because my son, his father died when he was 3. So what I did was because you can't have your kids, you got to be careful about having your children, especially your boys, around other people that you don't know. But I was able to find some good mentors and some good men to when I needed advice, and his uncles, y'all need to talk to them because I can't, and they thanked me. They were like, I thank you for coming to us, but I also thank you for keeping him away from us because of what we were doing. So he was, yeah, they told him what he needs to know as far as his manhood, but they was like, okay, now you need to be over here. Your mom is doing a good job. And I never tried to be his father. I always understood that I'm his mother. I never tried to be the dad because I cannot. And so I just was that. And I just tried to raise a human being, a good person. That was my job. I didn't
to
want
you
to,
for saying
you
that
know,
and
yeah.
understanding that we have wombs. We are
Yeah,
women.
yes, yes.
We're not men. We don't play father roles.
No, I don't. And I didn't know. So, and also I wanted him to understand that his relationship with women is special, and you don't allow just any woman into your space, because I
Mm.
know we
Like
know
it, yeah.
women. Yeah, we know. I'm a woman and I understand, and I've seen some women what they can do to a young guy who is, on his trajectory. And I was like, no. I said, women are emotional. I said, so don't play with women. I
Mm-hmm.
said, you need to understand how we operate. And unfortunately, I still don't have any grandkids, but hopefully one day, he said he wants to be married. I said, absolutely. And I'm glad I was able to put that in him, and he still carries that. He understands that I need to be in the house with my family before I start one. So I'm like, ooh, thank you.
Kia, I can't agree more. I tell my boys, I said, listen, I said, be very selective about who you lay down with
Mm-hmm.
because a popped condom, free cum, they all produce little
Yeah,
U's. You
yeah,
know what I'm
they
saying?
do.
And
Yes,
if
they
you
do.
ain't ready to have that woman in your life forever, if you ain't
Mm-hmm.
ready to take care of her and that child, because that it might be very likely that she's going to want child support if it don't work out for
Yeah,
y'all, or that when y'all are together, she's gonna have needs. Who do you want bringing your kids up? I'm not a
yeah,
fan of daycares, but I know people need to use them.
yeah.
But just know that when you go there, there's a level of responsibility that comes for that, and it's not waiting on you to be grown or mature.
No, it's not. And I told, when me and my son have these conversations, I said, if you ever have a child out of wedlock, I said, understand you get paternity. I said, and you establish your parental rights. So she cannot play with you with your child. I said, you make sure that for what, you are there every step of the way. You fight to be in your child's life if that should happen.
Absolutely.
I said, because what you don't want is someone taking you through the rigmarole just in case the relationship doesn't work out. I said, that's not healthy. I said, I didn't do it to you. I don't want you doing it to somebody's daughter. So he
Or having
understood.
it done to you, for
Yeah.
sure.
I said, and make
So I
sure the
want to
baby's
ask,
yours.
right? Ooh, sorry,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm sorry. I said, just make sure the child is yours, and then go off to the races, baby. Off to the races. I said, because you probably won't see it anyway. The baby will be with me.
I like that. You go work, baby. But that's another spin-off topic I want to talk about. Paternity test for men. Mama's baby, daddy.
Mhm.
All right, I already got our number two, Kia. I already
Got
got our
it.
number two. We're gonna bypass that right now, but I'm making a note.
Mhm.
So if I'm going back, right? Our 18-year-old has graduated. Whether they, you know, let's went to college or not, they're still home under our rules because they have to return during breaks and things like that. And even though we can't give them rules, like I struggle between, do I tell my kid that he has a curfew at 18, or do I just say, these are my house rules and you must follow them if you choose to continue living here? Is that fair?
So, what's the amazing thing about your boys is that if you sit them down and tell them your fear and your concerns and negotiate, they'll meet you halfway. Say, listen, son, I know you're 18. I know, but you're still 18, and you can't really stop him. I hate when people, well, this is my house. We get that, but remember when we were 18?
Hmm.
We didn't want to hear that either. So I would have a conversation and say, listen, I know you're 18 and I know you're ready to really spread your wings. If you wanted to continue to be here, I need you to let me know where you're going to be as a safety precaution. Just let me know these things, because if something happens to you, I need to know how to get to you. You
Mm.
know what I mean? I'm not trying to stop you, Sean. Remember, I was 18 too. I get it. And, as a man, we already understand that you're going to be in different places. But if you're gonna be out late or staying out all night, please just give me a text. Say, hey, mom, I'm staying out. I'm not gonna be into the morning, but I'm gonna let you know I'm good, and I'm sending you a text.
Yes, and that goes for the young ladies too. Like one thing I did
Oh
share my
yeah.
location with my kids. I didn't just ask for their location. I also sent them mine because I want y'all
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
know that I'm good. Because my boys will worry, where you at, mom? Or why
Yeah.
are you
Right,
taking so
right. They
long to go
more
to the
than,
store?
yeah, they worse than we are. Like, what? I'm grown.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's important to show that the care and concern goes
Yeah.
both ways.
Yeah.
But one thing I did do, instead of telling my kids, no, you can't go come in here after midnight. Don't be walking to my house at 3 and 4 in the morning. Because the last thing I want you to do is be out there, be unsafe, and be like, oh shit, I can't go home. It's
Right.
after 3.
Right.
So
Yeah.
come home, be okay. But at least, like you said, that communication, kid, goes far. Let me know that you're staying out. But like I implement house rules, like follow the
Yeah.
rules. Don't leave your shoes. Don't do this.
Yeah.
Don't have company. Don't be telling everybody where I live. Go to
Mhm.
the just be conscientious of what I have been doing all these years to keep us safe from harm,
Yeah.
and
And not
using
only
my
that,
common sense and respect that.
yeah, and not only that, you have to understand now that you're old enough to pay rent if you're not going to school. Um, you have to understand that you're an adult living in somebody else's house in their space. I can't, when you're again, when you're young, I'll let you run around and do pretty much, what you want. But now you're an adult, and so what I would we you can't go back and forth between the two as an adult. I'm not gonna let you run around now because you know you're an adult, and then be like, oh, when I'm grown, because guess what? Grown people have their own house. Grown people have their own space. Grown people pay their own bills. You can walk around butt naked in your own place, right? That's what it
Period.
means to have been in your own space. I would love to do that, but I can't. Why? Because my children are still in my space. So it's just have the conversation. Don't be afraid to have that conversation with your children. And I'll keep it to Black women. As Black women, we gotta understand how to have the conversation, because a lot of times we just will yell and be nasty to our, we'll be like, you why you just say, hey, let
Yeah.
me talk to you. Now if you keep doing it, then I might raise my voice. So listen, we've had this conversation once, we've had it twice. I'm not gonna have it a third time. Your stuff will be packed and waiting for you. And there's men's shelters, there's women's shelters. But what you're not gonna keep doing is disrespecting me and what I need for me to be peace of mind. That's period. Like, you're not gonna disrespect my house. That's all. Just, and we don't gotta scream, we don't gotta yell. You can say it just as sweetly, but what we gotta do is stand on it and mean it.
And mean it, right? We can't be fluid with the rules, because then they're gonna be like, "Well, last week you said this week you did." So you definitely got to stand on business with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
as the kids say.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do we charge our kids rent? And if so, at what point? Like, what point
So,
do we let them be like, "Your money is your money, but if you still gonna be here, I'm gonna need you to do
right.
something around the house."
So I feel like this, because as a person who has always paid her bills with my children, I don't need your money to pay my bills. What I need you to do is start saving your money so you can start to transition. And you'll do it quicker if you're not paying me rent. So but again, some people, no, you need to pay something, because and for me, that just lets me know that you still want your child around. You want to be, because
Oh,
if I'm charging, that means you can't get it up. You can't get up enough money to where I need you out in 6 months. Because when you leave, I want you 6 months of rent, utilities, food, everything, so that you're not looking at me 2 months later like, oh, I don't have enough. No, I want to help you build your savings. Again, guide you towards that end goal. And if you say, you know what, if you say I'm still struggling to get there, we can talk about it. But eventually, the goal is to be in your own place, so you don't got to hear my mouth. You don't got to hear my rules. But again, and I can show you, we could do a budgeting. We can do a lot of things. And obviously you can come visit. I'm always here. But for you to establish yourself, because there's nothing better, I think, for a man to have his own. There's no better feeling. And
yeah.
you don't want to, I don't for me personally, I never wanted my son to go for me to living on to another woman. I said, because that woman could put you out. I said, never be in a position where a woman will get mad at you and put you, I said, and don't put that burden on her. Don't do that. If you're a young man standing on your business, you get your own place, and that way, I don't care if you just got a sheet and a pillow, it's yours.
It's yours. Yes. Let them come visit you. Let them come
Mm-hmm.
spend a night with you.
Yeah.
But don't ever be in a position where somebody could tell you to get out. I'm with you there. And one thing I tell, my daughter's older, married, she has a level of stability going for her and her family. But one thing I tell my two boys is that with me, I don't care what age you are, you'll always have shelter, you'll always have food. You'll never go homeless, you'll never go hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And because I know we all hit on
Yeah,
rough
it
times.
happens.
And even
Yeah,
when
it
you go
happens.
out there and you think you're able to maintain it, life get hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't need you sleeping in the streets, and I don't need you digging through dumpsters to try to eat. If
Right.
mama is
Right.
alive and
Right.
well, you got shelter, you got food. So
Right.
I'm so glad you touched on that. And for the kids, who may refuse to pay, like, man, I ain't paying no rent, I ain't paying my own cell phone bill. Then collect the money. And then we could just put it aside as a saving. So
Yeah.
when they do get to a point, they're like, I'm ready to
Yeah.
go, and I'm short. Oh, guess what?
Yep. Nope. Mama been saving it, because mama been waiting for this day. Yeah.
Gift of independence. Here you
Yes, there you
go.
go, baby. And as mothers, we know, as Black mothers, we are not going to leave our kids for dead. Most of us are not.
Oh,
We'll let
yeah.
you know, because we probably gonna be over there in their business anyways. Like, what you doing? Hey, bring you food. You need anything, toilet tissue. So we're not gonna just leave you for dead. We're
Care
gonna make sure
packages
our
and
kids
shit.
are
Yeah.
right. We're gonna make sure our kids are great, but they need to understand that we're not always gonna be here.
Yeah, right here.
We're not always gonna be here. And so I need you to be able to be okay. I don't need you to be in this space of mind and if something happens to me or dad, and you're trying to figure it out and parcel through things, and everybody know because you got your own space. We're like, nope, you know what? Call me when y'all ready to discuss the funeral, and then you know what I mean. Like it just it gives them a peace of mind and a sense of self that they need. They don't even realize that they need it. No, you need it. You need to be in your own space so you can understand now my position.
Yeah. Very rarely do we prepare our kids on how to live without us.
Mm-hmm.
Even the basics, like, doing the dishes, cooking you a simple meal, being able to do your own laundry,
Yeah.
learning how to drive, like survival stuff. Like we
Mm-hmm.
talked about budgeting earlier, like things that you need to do while you're on your own. At what age, I know we're winding down and I appreciate your time. At what age is it okay to leave our children overnight or for the weekend or let them fend for themselves while they're still home and can call and be like, hey mom, how do I do that box macaroni and cheese again? Or, how do I operate the AC? Is there an age when we can let our kids try to figure it out while they're still under our purview of guidance?
Under 18.
Under 18, high
Oh,
schoolers.
so my with the way the world is now, I make it a safe space for the kids to come be here, and the parents know me, and I invite the parents to come visit so they know where their kids are coming. It's been for me letting and this is something I struggle with. Like Q can't go nowhere. Like they could come in, but you can't go in, and it's hard because that's how I was brought up. Like my grandmother was like, my mother was like, no, because you don't know how other people live. So that's a situational thing. I think parents should make sure you know who the family is. I'm not saying don't do it, but make sure you understand who's going to be there. If they're men or, if they have a brother, boys are going to be around, because even if nothing happens, you know how geekly girls are. A boy is around. Oh my God, we're just going to be beside ourselves. So again, understanding the situation that you're putting your children in, and do your due diligence to make sure they're safe. Make sure they have a phone. Listen, if you're not feeling comfortable with something going on, you better text me so I can come get you out of it. Boys who text me so I can make sure, send your dad or whoever's, make sure you're safe, but always safety first. For me,
I mean, even leaving our kids home alone. If they're in 10th, 11th grade, 12th grade, maybe not 18, and you want to do a girls' weekend away, or you got a work trip, and your parenting classes, does that ever come up? What do parents do in that situation? Are we still sending our 15-year-old to go stay with auntie?
yes, yes, but make sure and make sure auntie don't got nothing going on either, because a lot of the harm comes from family members. So yeah, hire a babysitter. Again, I don't
At
care if
what
they
age
don't
do we not hire a babysitter, Kia?
live. Remember, we were latchkey kids. We were we were in California. I was catching a bus at 9 years old in California by myself, but it was just me and my mom. And so I don't
17-year-olds
recommend
stay
that.
home alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And you
Can
can
you
get in trouble.
17-year-olds stay home alone?
No, you were 17. What were we doing at 17? Exactly. I was pregnant at
Oh
16.
Lord.
No.
I
Do
was birthing a baby. I
right,
was changing.
exactly. I was changing diapers. But know your
That's
children.
hilarious. You're right.
Uh,
Too
yeah,
much freedom too soon could be too
yeah,
problematic.
yeah. And
I
again,
love it.
it got
Well,
to be situational. But for me, make sure eyes are always on until they're 18. It'd be like, when you're 18, I ain't too much I could do. But I don't, and you don't want people thinking that your house is the house when mom
true.
goes or dad goes away. So I would just, yeah, for me, I'm always gonna have eyes on you, especially how
Yeah.
dangerous things are, with the smoking and the vaping, and because you don't know what a child will do when you're not in front of them. You don't.
And kids are curious. They
Yeah,
are.
they
And
are
it's just
very
too
much.
much to explore and
Yeah,
experiment with. So I like that. And parents do what best work best for y'all.
absolutely.
Every household is different.
Yeah,
Well, we're
absolutely.
winding down, Kia, and I want to give you a
Okay.
chance to get final thoughts or words just on this topic. Just, raising our young adult children and the guidance and the support and also keeping them at home. I guess, how do I say it? Letting up without letting go. Like, what's the
Yeah.
balance and what's your final thoughts on that?
So my final thoughts on that is trust. Nobody's perfect, and there's no blueprint on how to be a parent. If we had the blueprint, everybody be doing it right, because in each child is different. Stay in your child's life. Be nosy. I don't care what anybody says. Be nosy. Know what's going on with your child.
Mhm.
Um, Again, what you did and did not pour into your child, and that's okay, because you might, you know, when we know better, we do better. And you might not have known, but now you do. And you can always start fresh. Children are very forgiving. If you come to them and say, hey, I know I wasn't, the best, but I'm trying. Let's see how we can move forward and build a better relationship. Because when they're 18, now they don't really have to be around you, but you don't want to be distanced from your child. So try to create a new relationship and move forward with your child so that you guys are in a better place, and that they'll want to come to you, and that they want to bring the grandkids, if they have kids, over to meet mom. And because things stick with kids, and they travel. And what I always tell my parents, don't ever say how good of a parent you are, how good you thought you've been, because your children will always be the testimony to that. And if you say that, and they probably gonna look at you cross-eyed and be like, oh, is that how you remember it? Because that's not how I remember it. Right. Because my aunts do it all the time. We're like, wait, no, your grandmother was not nice to us. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I always let your children will speak for you. And just trust the process. Trust that you know what you're doing. Trust it,
I like it.
James and if you Bond, don't,
Poop Pop Clutch 100, Kia.
And if you don't ask, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask. Go to an elder and say, hey, I'm struggling. Can you give me some guidance?
Absolutely. And take a parenting class. We're never too old to stop learning or stop learning how to parent, ask our children, have a sit down with them. What do you need from me? I ask my kids, what do you need from me at this stage in your life as your mom? What do you expect from me? My 15-year-old say food, cold, and shelter. And you told me that's what you required to do. That's what I want you to do. Yeah. My oldest was like, just food and a place to stay, safe place to stay. My daughter is like, just guidance. I want to be able to reach out to you when I need you. So I really thank you for your time, Kia. I appreciate you coming on. I love that we connected and stayed in touch. I always value your input. You're great communicator, and always have great topics to talk about. So hopefully this is not the last time our viewers get to see you.
No, and again, if you need me, because again, I'm starting building a curriculum for another parenting course called Parenting as a Lifestyle, because it is, and it's dealing with how to do it from the ages 0 to 18, more so 16, because past 16 kids are already who they are. So, and now that'll be coming soon. So we can do this. We can talk as much as you want, however many times you want to do it.
So you'll be a recurring guest on Sentimentally Speaking?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever the people want to know, let me know. I got you. I always make time.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And I also appreciate you guys for tuning in. As I always say, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here with us, Nakia and I. Thank y'all. Take care and God bless.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you. I love you so much for this. Thank you. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about this. So thank you.
Yes.